This is the Little Moments Count radio podcast, created in partnership with community radio stations throughout Minnesota. Each episode, you'll hear interviews with early childhood experts on how to support the important brain development that takes place in the first 1,000 days of life, just through little moments every day. Learn more at littlemomentscount.org/podcast.
This is your boy Big Mike, live and direct, Food for the Culture. This episode of For the Culture is presented in partnership with Little Moments Count and Minnesota Public Radio. Little Moments Count is a statewide collaborative focused on helping parents and caregivers learn about the importance of brain development in the first 3 years of life. Nearly 80% of brain growth happens in the first 1,000 days, and small moments of interaction like playing, talking, reading, and singing help create the pathways that build a child's brain during this early stage of life. For more information, you can visit littlemomentscount.org. Today, we are talking to Dr. Roger Sheldon. For the Culture is excited to be partnering with Little Moments Count to host conversations focused on early childhood development. There'll be guests every other week to talk about their involvement in Little Moments Count and how they view the role of early childhood development in creating bright futures and strong communities. Dr. Sheldon practiced newborn intensive care neonatology in Oklahoma for 31 years and taught pediatrics and neonatology at the University of Oklahoma College of Medicine. He is now an advocate for the care and education of children from pregnancy through age 4. This is going to mean a lot to me. And for parent education, both before and after becoming a parent. He is a member of the Minnesota chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics and of Doctors for Early Childhood. Let's welcome Dr. Roger Sheldon to the show. How you doing?
Hey, I'm great, Mike. So glad you gave me a chance to have a little conversation, a little chat.
Absolutely. Now, you and I have talked a little bit off air already about the NICU. I think that when there's like a long title tied to, a person, we don't put two and two together. So it wasn't until you said the word NICU that I understood exactly where it was that you worked at. Talk to us a little bit about how long like 31 years is a long time, when did you get into this? Why this field? A little bit of background on you, just Roger.
Cool. It's hard because it's so different. I was doing it for more than 40 years, counting training, and so I had to learn it, and then I had to teach other people how to do it, and took care of a whole lot of babies in that period of time. The Newborn Intensive Care Unit or NICU, is the place where the tiny preemies go, and also the place where children who are born at full term and full size who are sick need an operation, need a treatment of various kinds. They'll show up and they'll be transported, in the case of Oklahoma, typically flown in on a helicopter to the place where we do this kind of stuff, specialized. And so, it's a high-tension environment, but a lot of good things come out of it. It used to be that more than half of the kids would not make it at a certain small size of prematurity, like 3 pounds. And these days, about 85% of those kids make it fine. And wow. In fact, a good deal smaller make it, and that's a big plus. So I got to watch a lot of new developments in newborn intensive care.
And 30 plus years.
Yep.
I love that because I told you my daughter spent some time in the NICU, but we'll talk about that in a second. Let's get into the meat. So Doctors for Early Childhood, why was that created, and what does the group hope to achieve?
Well, our group got together now coming up on 5 years ago in the wake of George Floyd and the things that happened just a few blocks from here. The group of us, pediatricians and an early childhood licensed parent educator, got together and said, we really need to be off the sidelines doing something. And they offered us things like medical care, which we were no longer licensed to do. They offered us the idea that maybe we could participate in the housing process and trying to get more housing, affordable housing in the neighborhoods. And we didn't know anything about that, but we did know something about childhood and about brain development and about what it takes. And all of us really believe that early childhood things, development, growth, achievement, those early childhood things really are the foundation of any successful society. No matter what segment of the society, no matter what country you're talking about, the brain isn't ready when you're born. Mm-hmm. It has to get ready for learning how to talk, learning how to understand, learning how to read, learning how to achieve. The whole lifespan, including a lot of good health versus bad health, is established before you're ever out of the first 3 or 4 years of life. The school teachers get blamed for the kids who can't read. They never see these kids until their brain is already built. So how about if the school teachers can get that, give some slack, some forgiveness, because the ability to read is well established before anybody ever makes it to pre-K. So this is the most important part of life, and it's the fastest growing, and it's the most influential in so many different ways. So we decided we would focus on early childhood. And when we say education and care, we're talking about daycare, the child care system, so-called, which is sorely understaffed and sorely underfunded. Not that only, but earlier than that, back as far as we can go, really, we need to be thinking about brain development. Is mom's nutrition okay? Is she getting the stuff that she needs to build a brain for that youngster who's not even born yet? And then after birth, we're talking about the fastest growth of brain in the whole lifespan. Incredible growth each day. The brain cells, they claim, there's probably on the order of 100,000 new brain cells built every single day. Actually a little more before birth, and then after birth. Every day after that, the brain grows less. Its fastest day is the day of birth, and downhill from there. And if we aren't taking advantage of that, that child's brain may never reach the place where it could have reached, the potential that's possible.
So you've already helped, because I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Right? So
a lot of people don't, including pediatricians.
Well, you mentioned pregnancy, right? So why is it important to start supporting a child's development during pregnancy? What does that even look like? What are the benefits of, like, and I did this with all my kids, but I'm learning to appreciate the science behind it. So what are the actual benefits of, like, reading and talking to babies while they're in the womb, like singing to them and all of that? And is that a way, I'm guessing that is a way to support their child's development during pregnancy? Like, do they actually hear us?
They actually hear us. You can show that they recognize Dad's voice as well as Mom's. Turn to the voice that they have heard before on the first or second day of life. They've never seen you. They've never heard you really unmuffled and kind of distant, but they know their family. And to take it back a pretty big step, Mom has to have enough good food and all of the vitamins and minerals and blah, blah, blah that you hear about in order for that brain to actually be constructed. You got to have the raw materials or you don't get the right end result. So nutrition is incredibly important. It's been said that if every woman before and during the time that she gives birth had the right amount of iron in her diet, the cumulative IQ of the population would go up by 3 points. Because the brain isn't built properly unless it has the necessary iron. So we've got this opportunity that most people don't even understand that exists and don't take advantage of.
Right. And it's sad, but true statement, like, you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And then once it gets, and that's why I think this is a fitting topic for this segment. Well, once you know, you kind of can, move a little bit more informed once you've been properly fed. Like, no, this is actually what's really happening. It was just a cultural thing for us to talk to the belly.
Mm-hmm.
Like we believe that they can hear us. But I never knew that there was a lot of actual
It's well
science
established.
behind it.
Well established.
We talk about that critical time from birth to 3 or 4. What's happening in the baby's brain? You mentioned it a couple times, but what's actually happening in a baby's brain from birth to age 3 that makes this time so critical?
Got a half an hour? This question could take it. And another hour later. To make it most direct, it's the foundation of everything. Educational achievement, economic productivity, responsible citizenship, lifelong health. If you're not smart enough to know what to eat and not to eat and take care of yourself, chances are you're not going to be very healthy. So we're starting for the whole lifespan here. The other thing that most people forget about is proper preparation of this baby means that their baby's going to have a better deal. Mm-hmm. Means that successful parenting of that next generation is very much more likely. It also talks about, we also hear talk about stronger communities, healthy economy, people getting decent jobs. What job can a person hold if they can't read? There's about 3 of them. And so what are we going to do with learning language? Well, that's where I get off on my high horse here, because we're talking about a brain that for about a year accumulates mass, gets bigger, gets lots more cells, 100,000 a day, gets to the point where all of those cells are connected and talking to each other. And unless they are stimulated, that is to say, unless they're hearing stuff, seeing stuff, participating in stuff, those brain cells kind of sit there. And by about age 3, they start going away if you don't put them to use. Something called pruning, which means they just, eliminated. And you remember when the slogan, a mind is a terrible thing to waste?
To waste, yeah.
Was out. This is the original most important aspect of a mind is a terrible thing to waste, because that brain is ready to absorb all this stuff. And if you don't fill it, a limit is set, and the brain structure, the actual cells, start to go away. And by the time you're 3 or 3.5, if you haven't put them to use, they're discarded. And then you're sent to school and they wonder why you can't read. Well, we can take this lesson way back to in utero or right after birth. There's so much that needs to happen in that little while. The first year is spent primarily learning how to run your body. The brain needs to know that the message coming in on this nerve means the index finger is touching something. And that's for life. That nerve is dedicated to being the sensation of that first finger forever. They also need to be able to feel that there's a pinprick in the back of my hand, or there's a hot stove over here that's going to burn me. All of that sensation thing is built. And then, for that first year, then they start to have to learn how to run those fingers and move what they want to move. They have to experiment. You've seen probably in your own kids looking at their hands trying to figure out which finger is moving now. Oh, okay, if I want to move, now I know how to run that. Mm-hmm. And that has to happen for knee joints and foot joints and toes. Whether something's touching your ear or your eyeball,
the whole body.
Everything has to be packaged up, and the control panel has to be learned, established and learned. That takes about a year, but there's lots else going on there. We'll come back to it because they have to learn what those sounds mean during that year, or at least learn that they exist. But let's go back to the motor thing. When the child gets up on his feet and starts to walk, usually around 1, oh my goodness, now I can pay attention to some other stuff. And they start putting language together. And what I'm really going to focus on is language, is learning the sounds, learning how they fit together to make words, learning what the words mean, learning how to communicate, how to say that word, even though, I don't know what it means yet. And that child will actually accomplish that by the time they're 3, more or less. It's been shown that, in fact, every baby about age 10 months knows every sound in their personal language, in the language that's spoken at home. And we need to spend some time on this too, because if there's 2 languages spoken at home, they learn them both. And they're pretty darn good at it. And because they pack more stuff into that brain, they actually end up with a bigger brain.
Wow. Wow.
And so I've had a lot of families say, "Oh, I don't want to confuse my baby with 2 languages." Oh, you've got a big advantage there. And can you imagine how many jobs that child can hold if he speaks 2 languages, or understands 2 cultures? Build that into the family, and you've got a superpower. And
wow.
A lot of people don't pay attention to that. In fact, I've had them say, I specifically avoid talking the old country language because I'm going to confuse the baby. No, he can handle it. So.
And I wonder where that you're right. And it makes me think of, like, where did that thought come from, that we would be confusing the kids by doing both, right?
Yep.
As opposed to just kind of, and back to you're creating the package, like, it's kind of like you're setting the ceiling almost. And then I get the analogy of, like, oh, it's like wet cement for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then after time, and cement may dry at a faster rate, but that's the longer time it takes for the cement to dry. And once it's dry, that's it.
Well, you got to be careful with that one because it doesn't ever quite set.
And that's what I was gonna make sure, because so there's this focus on the early years, and then if you're a parent and you learn this later and your kid's already past this.
We all have our regrets along these lines. I was a fully trained pediatrician before I figured out that, about the time my son was born and passing through these. And we just didn't know this stuff in those days. There's a lot of new information here.
So the first 10 months, you mentioned that a couple times. Is that, and you mentioned that's where the auditory learning is happening. Is
Check.
that, talk about that, like.
Well, there's probably 200 different sounds in the English language. Not 5 vowels, not 26 letters. You got a lot more to learn than that. It's, let's pick a word, removing, R-E, that's a phoneme, re. And that's different from B and C and P and key. So all of those are separate phonemes. And then you've got moo, and that's different from moo and me and my and mo. Mm. And some of those are compound sounds that slide in the middle. They call them diphthongs. You've probably heard that word.
Yep.
And then you've got the ing, and it goes with an E, an I, and then it closes into an NG, which is different from And so it's really a hard language to learn.
That's a good word you picked. You picked a good word.
Well, there's about 7 dozen of them here, and they're all interesting. But so the phonemes, that's what he's already learned, that they exist by the time 10 months comes around. And 2 languages worth by 12 months, typically, if you've got 2 languages to learn. They're fast at it. The other thing that's really interesting is, if you don't hear it, it doesn't exist in your language. You've heard about how the Japanese can't say the letter R because there isn't such a thing. And so you'll hear them saying some kind of
other
sound substituting for it. It's like that sound is not even on the planet. And that all exists within the first few months of the second year.
So we need to challenge them. So we need to like introduce the other languages always. Like what other things can we do in those first couple of years to like build the like strong brain health and resilience in children?
Well, that's been figured out, and it's so easy, it's almost sad, because really you have to talk, you have to read, you have to sing, and preferably your culture song, that is to say things that mean something to you and your family.
That was big right there.
Huge. And you have to play. And in the play zone, the big one is what's called serve and return, which means you push the ball to the baby, and the baby pushes the ball back. And now you've got a relationship. There's something going on between the two of you. And that happens for the rest of your life, not just with balls, but, with whatever thing you talk to your child about, and they talk to you about, and you wish they didn't talk to you about, and all of that stuff is a relationship. It's been shown that the phonemes and the word meanings are learned beautifully from people and poorly from screens, phones, TVs, tablets, you name it. The kids need the relationship. They need the idea coming to them that says, oh, he approves of what I just said. Wow, he smiled. He said, good job. He gave me a hug. He gave me a smooch.
The interaction.
That's what locks in the behavior. This is the age when the kids actually want to please you. Catch that as an experienced parent.
Yeah, because it's going to go away. I definitely felt that. I felt that. This is when they want to. They actually care what you think right now.
They actually do. And if they don't get that approval, they'll go find somebody else who does care.
Hello.
So beware that language is learned by sounds in the ear, but it's also learned at the heart. It's learned because Mom was glad that I did that. Dad approves. And I got a smile. It could be a smile. It could be a hug is especially good. Touch is huge in this situation. We could talk another half hour on touch by itself.
I see it there.
It's actually another word for love. We snuggle, not just with our kids.
Oh yeah, I'm married. I see the same love that I show from my wife. There's a way for me to always be as affectionate to my kids, right? So like,
absolutely.
I have my last few kids have been girls. So like I got bonus baby at the top, then I got 3 boys, and then there's girls. And then it's just like...
And they're different.
Yeah. So the whole thing has kind of opened me up a little bit. So I definitely understand. I didn't even like associate it with like reward, right? Like, so there's a question about human touch and reward.
You know, don't make it a lollipop or a piece of candy or something of that sort as your reward. This is psychological reward we're talking about, and I don't know quite how to set the limits. Different people are going to express themselves different ways, but the main thing I think on this page is don't hit them. Don't involve pain here. That's not going to get you anywhere. That's going to get you a kid who hits other kids, or a kid who hits you, or does something worse than that when he's 21, or somebody who ends up in trouble, big trouble. And so be careful about negatives. There's a phrase that I think is really very helpful to keep in mind. Catch them doing something good.
Wow.
And tell them so. Find the behavior that you want and praise it and reward it. I don't really care what kind of a reward at this point, but, reward it. You get a lot better change of behavior with a reward for the good than a punishment for the bad.
And as a parent, I hear that, and it will apply to all the kids.
Mm-hmm. Everyone.
Like, it's great to get that in there early, but it's even better when you as a parent realize that, this is something that I can implement right away, because I'm sure you've already had experiences where you've seen the catch them doing something good thing happen, and now to have it be planted in your mind, like, there's an intention that can be added there. Like, I saw the mischievous things, but I also saw you pick up a book and read for 30 minutes without anyone telling you to do so. Like, catch them being good. I like that.
You're here.
Yeah, we could talk all day. You
all
were
day,
right.
All day.
You were right.
Well, I'm ready to come back anytime you're interested. So.
I got one more question for you. One more question. If you can answer this is always hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the most important thing every parent should know about their child's early brain development? If there is a most important thing.
I think the most important thing that people don't know is that it starts at the very beginning. I've even been known to sing Julie Andrews' song, "Let's start at the very beginning, a very good place to start." This is a first year thing, a first 2 months thing. If you have a negative interaction with your 2-month-old, it probably has long-term implications. They're there. They're a people. It's not a thing. It's a person, and you have to be aware from the very beginning and paying attention. And you got to talk, you got to read, you got to sing, or if you don't sing good, talk, or sing out of tune. They don't care. And you've got to play. You've got to have those interactions. That to me is the most important thing. The second most important thing is you've got a window. It only lasts about 3 years. You've got to do that first stuff, or you'll end up with a kid whose brain, whose reading ability, whose potential to learn and achieve has a cap to it, has a limit. And you don't want that. You want an unlimited brain. A mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Come on now.
You got it. Right there in front of you. Pay attention. Do a good job.
There you have it. There you have it. You can hear a recording of this show, this interview, at littlemomentscount.org/podcast. If you'd like to learn more about Little Moments Count, you can visit their website at littlemomentscount.org. Roger, you made me happy to know that over and over again with all my kids that I did the right thing. You let me know.
Caught you doing something good.
Caught me doing something good because I talked, I sang, I played, we read, and now I understand. I can actually see this play out in real time. So I appreciate you. I definitely feel fed. Thank you for coming. We'll have you back soon. I want to have you back soon.
It's a pleasure. Glad to do it.
This is your boy Big Mike, live and direct, 98.9 FM, food for the culture. Consider yourselves fed. Let's keep it moving.
Thanks for listening to the Little Moments Count radio podcast in partnership with community radio stations throughout Minnesota. You can find the Little Moments Count radio podcast wherever you get your podcasts and at littlemomentscount.org/podcast.